Hello! Before we jump into today's video about LEGO aircraft carriers, we want to give a special shout-out to Rescues2 for providing us with unique mock-ups of the largest carriers featured in this video. You can check them out using the link in the description. Enjoy the video! 11 parts. He's so small. 23 parts. More details, but still not very good. 36 parts. Do they use binoculars instead of airplanes? Creative. More like modern aircraft carriers, 50 parts. USS Langley CV-1 was the first US Navy aircraft carrier, converted from the Collier USS Jupiter AC-3 in 1920, 65 parts. 100 parts, looks good, and the little details show the fighter jets, they look cool. USS Essex CV-9 was the lead ship of its class, commissioned in 1942. It played a major role in the Pacific Theater during World War II. 139 parts. 150 parts. IJN Taiho was a heavy aircraft carrier of the Imperial Japanese Navy, commissioned in 1944. It featured an armored flight deck, but was lost in the Battle of the Philippine Sea. 200 parts. USS Midway CV-41 was a US aircraft carrier commissioned in 1945. It served for 47 years, including in Vietnam and Desert Storm. USS Yorktown CV-5 was a US Navy aircraft carrier commissioned in 1937. It fought in the battles of the Coral Sea and Midway, where it suffered fatal damage and sank on June 7, 1942. 450 parts. 1,417 parts. Mack ship was a merchant aircraft carrier used during World War II, combining cargo transport with limited aviation capabilities. (1,781 parts). USS Wolverine was a freshwater training aircraft carrier used on the Great Lakes during World War II to train naval aviators. 2,355 parts. USS Independence CVL-22 was a US light aircraft carrier commissioned in 1943. It served in the Pacific and was later used in nuclear tests. 3,503 parts. IJN Zuho was a Japanese light aircraft carrier commissioned in 1940. It served in the Pacific War and was sunk in 1944. 3,993 parts. SMS Seydlitz was a German battle cruiser commissioned in 1913. It fought in World War I, including the Battle of Jutland, and was scuttled in 1919. 4,366 parts. Graf Zeppelin was Germany's only aircraft carrier, launched in 1938 but never completed. It was scuttled in 1945 and later sunk by the Soviets. 4,558 parts. Seydlitz was a German heavy cruiser intended for conversion into an aircraft carrier but never completed, captured by the Soviets in 1945. 4,633 parts. USS Enterprise CV-6 was a US aircraft carrier commissioned in 1938. It was the most decorated ship of World War II and decommissioned in 1947. 4,816 parts. USS Lexington CV-2 was a US aircraft carrier commissioned in 1927. It fought in the Pacific and was sunk at the Battle of the Coral Sea in 1942. 4,016 5,248 parts. IJN Kaga was a Japanese aircraft carrier commissioned in 1928. It took part in the attack on Pearl Harbor and was sunk at the Battle of Midway in 1942. 5,425 parts. USS Essex CV-9 was a U.S. aircraft carrier commissioned in 1942. It served in World War II, Korea and Vietnam before decommissioning in 1969. 6,112 parts. IJN Taihu was Japan's first heavily armored carrier commissioned in 1944. It was lost in the Philippine Sea due to an internal explosion. 8,206 parts. Graf Zeppelin was Germany's early aircraft carrier launched in 1938. Never completed, it was scuttled in 1945 and later sunk by the Soviets. 8,841 parts. IJN Shokaku was a Japanese aircraft carrier commissioned in 1941. It fought at Pearl Harbor and Midway before being sunk at the Battle of the Philippine Sea in 1944. 9,425 parts. USS Enterprise CV-6 was a U.S. aircraft carrier commissioned in 1938. The most decorated in World War II, it was decommissioned in 1947 and scrapped. 12,312 parts. USS Intrepid CV-11 was an Essex-class aircraft carrier commissioned in 1943. It served in World War II, Korea and Vietnam and is now a museum in New York.